everyone, and thanks for tuning in. So today is all about preparing for the fall. Now, if you have been following along, I started my roadside flower stand, but unfortunately my garden beds were still being prepped in the spring and even in the early summer. So I had a very big delay to my roadside flower stand, and I have only had it open for 2 weekends right now. Well, today it's all about gearing up for the fall. Since I missed my spring window due to my beds not being prepared, I was tilling, digging roots, still starting seeds, and trying to figure out the layout that I was very behind. I had to get in some 50-50 mix in there, and my tilled garden beds aren't the best. I also had a late start due to the weather this spring. So here in Western Massachusetts, it was still cold up until the first weekend of June. I was even wearing a light winter coat. We had a very cold and wet spring. My dahlias got in very late due to how wet it was where they are planted right now. And my zinnias, we actually had flooding issues. So I had to bring in some more dirt to hopefully raise it above where it would puddle and try and figure out how to get them to survive. So I actually had to push back my planting date than what I was hoping for just because of the rain alone. Now, usually here in Western Massachusetts, the rule of thumb is to plant your flowers by Mother's Day and then wait for your warm loving things like your peppers and your tomatoes after Memorial Day weekend. And I even planted after that, again, due to the significant amount of rain. Well, right now I am trying to take up as much as I can of the fall, and I'm trying to do a few different things. I have some sunflowers, which that was a whole fiasco in itself planting. Unfortunately, every time I direct sowed my sunflowers, they were either dug up by birds or Chippy the Chipmunk and his little friends and family members. So I planted hundreds of sunflowers only for them to be dug up. I also tried starting them inside my greenhouse, and then when it got too hot, I just put them on my potting bench to keep growing before I transplanted them out. Again, they were dug up and eaten. So I do have some that I started indoors, and I need to get them out now. These are going to be more like the fall colors, like the nice burgundies, darker yellows and oranges. So I have those to plant out. I did plant out another batch of them 2 weekends ago, and they are doing great. So I have learned that this is how I'm going to have to start sunflowers from now on. Start them indoors, or I will be having my exhaust fan put into my greenhouse in the spring so that way I can make use of it in the summer months. So hopefully I can also start a handful of sunflowers every week or every 2 weeks from here on out in 2026. Now behind me are my Snapdragons. I picked some from Baker Creek. They're like darker colors, or some purples in there, some deeper reds. So I am hoping that these will bloom in time, hopefully by the beginning of September, middle of September. So when I was looking at the seed packet, it said anywhere from 85 to 100 days. I started these back in the middle of June. I did a lot of overseeding, so most of them had 3 or 4 seeds in them, and some only had 2 germinate while others had all 4. If I can tease them apart, I will, but if not, I'm just gonna leave them as is, just because I don't want to waste any of my transplants because I really need these for the fall. I also realized that some of them were putting on some small little blooms, so I really need to get them in the ground. I actually took today off from work. It is a beautiful day. It's going to be in the low 70s right now and get only up to 80 degrees. So it's going to be perfect for planting. I did a lot of weeding this weekend. I soaked the area, so hopefully it'll have some good moisture in there. So we're going to get a couple hundred Snapdragons in today, plus some of my last hope for sunflowers. Luckily, the sunflowers behind me have been helping with focal flowers in my mason jars, but I am just hoping I can also get some fall colors in as well. So today I'm going to take you along. We are going to cross our fingers that we can get a good fall harvest with some Snapdragons. I also started stock around the same time. I did some purple and white, and I think maybe like a deep red, but they are not ready to transplant quite yet. I'm hoping maybe I will be able to in about 2 weeks or so. And then I also need to till another row so I can put my cool hardy annuals in this month. So it's going to be a very busy August. So here is actually one of the Snapdragons. As you can see, there's a lot in. I would say that most of these have 3 seedlings. Some have 2, some only have 1. These ones are starting, I don't know if you can see, but they're starting to develop some buds. So I really need to get them in. I have been hardening them off. So again, today is Wednesday. I've been hardening them off since Friday. So Friday I took them in for the late afternoon when I got home from work, brought them in. I brought them out on Saturday just for half of the morning when it was cooler out, kept them in the shade. Sunday, I brought them out for the morning and I extended it to mid-afternoon so they were able to get a couple of hours of sun. It was still very warm. Some of them on the ends kind of got a little dry and wilted. I just watered them, brought them back in, and they were totally fine. And then come Monday and Tuesday, I actually just left them out the full day Monday. Totally forgot to bring them in. So they were out all night. Luckily, it was still in the 60s at night. And then last night I left them out and they are looking great. So I think they're going to be just fine. Getting them outside and transplanting now. So Friday to Wednesday morning looks like it was a good amount of time. We have been lucky too because actually it has been cooler here in Massachusetts. No 90 degrees. It's been the low to mid 80s. Cool mornings. Some mornings it was actually in the mid 50s. So that might be why some of these are getting some blooms on because it was really cold at night. However, this upcoming weekend, we are having a heat wave. So I really hope that by getting them in on Wednesday and then I believe it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is when we're in the low 90s, they will be able to handle the heat. So I'll make sure I water them early in the morning and then again at night. I have fertilized these for the past couple of weeks now, just every other week. I just use the Neptune's fish fertilizer and they have been happy. So I have these and we'll do our sunflowers and I'll show you where I'm going to put them now. All right, so here are my 3 rows right now. I like to say like 3.5. I have all my zinnias over here and dahlias. So I have a few cafe au lait dahlias that are blooming right now. Isn't she so pretty? And since I'm going to be netting these, I'm going to ever so carefully try and get some netting in. I am going to put my Snapdragons all along here. That way I can just have the netting continue and it can help support them, especially because there are so many in some of my trays. And then I will be putting my sunflowers over my sunflower patch there. And then I'm not quite sure what I'll be putting in here. I can either put some of my winter hardy annuals or do some direct seeding. And I also have a small space there, but I didn't want to put my Snapdragons there because nothing is netted. So I'm going to be putting in right here we have the Bazaar mix. I started these on the 19th of June. Today is August 6th. This batch right here is the Black Prince. And these are like a nice deep red. And this is what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's just from the cooler nights, but they're starting to put on buds. So I really need to get some of these in the ground. And this right here is the Remembrant one. So again, all on the 19th. I am going to space these only 3 or 4 inches apart. Try and jam pack them in. And we'll see how it goes. And I weeded this, I kid you not, on Saturday. And of course, more is popping in, but everything is starting to finally take off. We actually have some more dahlias popping up as well. So I hope they will be good for this weekend. All right, so let's get to planting. All right, so we're going to be getting our Snapdragons in. Like I mentioned, I will be spacing them about 3 to 4 inches apart. I am really going to jam pack them in. I might do maybe 4 inches just because some of them have a lot in them. But I will say, like in this batch right here, a lot of them only have 2 seedlings per tray, which will be totally fine. My goal is to just get 1 harvest from them. So I will not be pinching them out so I don't have to worry about them branching. I really just need a quick bloom from them. So I'm hoping, because I do have some, as you can see, in various different stages, whether it's just from stretching or, you know, just probably just competing for the light inside. So I'm going to try and be strategic with the lighting, planting the taller ones in the to my left over here and the shorter ones over to my right, so that way they won't be having any sun blocked out. So we'll see what we can do. I can even see some budding down here. Again, it is going to be August 6th. So our average first frost date is actually October 3rd, but then I also Googled it and also saw anywhere around October 10th to 13th. I would love for it to be the 10th to the 13th, but if I go on the Farmer's Almanac, it said October 3rd. But I do remember the past two Halloweens, it was still in the 70s at the end of October, but the nights were definitely cooler. So I don't remember how cool it got. I don't have any type of frost cloth. So if I did have that, that would be super helpful, but we're going to just bypass that for this season and then maybe invest in something like that next season. So we'll be planting these by the dahlias. I'm going to give them a good foot from the dahlias just in case they start to bush out. I don't want them to overtake my snapdragons. So even if I put them out a foot and a half, I think that will be fair, just to give everything a good growing room. So let's get to it. My snapdragons 4 inches right here and then 6 inches across to try and give them some space, especially if some had more than 2 or 3 seedlings. Like some of them I was able to split, but as you can see, this one has a bunch that are just starting to put on leaves. So I wanted to make sure I gave them some space this way in between each row, but we were able to get them all in and still have plenty of room. All right, we are finally done with all the snapdragons. I am going in for a quick bite to eat, but we were able to get all 3 varieties in. So when I return, it will be time to get the fall sunflower succession planted, and then we will call it a day with planting. So I'll catch you soon. This is my small little sunflower patch. It's a great spot that gets a lot of sun. Now it's very overcast today, but usually this will get sun from almost sunrise to sunset, or at least until around like 6 p.m. So we took some bricks as it's helping keep all the crabgrass out right now, because that is basically what the backyard is right now, is just crabgrass. And I have some sunflowers, and I have tried so many times to direct sow them, like I mentioned earlier. However, they just kept getting eaten. I tried growing them in the greenhouse. It got too hot. I don't have my exhaust fan in yet. And then the chipmunks were enjoying them. And they even enjoy them as soon as they are about 2 inches tall. They'll still dig them up and try and go for the seed. So I totally gave up on that. Next year I'll know. So I did start these inside. I don't have too many. I have a handful here. These are going to be an assortment. And then some of them are actually branching out too. So I'm gonna put these towards the back. And then I have some from Baker Creek that I also started indoors, which I'll be planting. And if you can see here, I do have some sunflowers. I tried spacing them anywhere between 2 to 4 inches apart. I really want a smaller head on them. And then over here, I thought they were sunflowers that were finally growing. And then about a week ago, they started sprouting and they look more like amaranth. It might be a weed. I have no idea. I pulled out a handful of them because they were starting to crowd over my sunflowers, and I'm really pushing it on the timing before our first frost date, and I would love to get some by mid-September. That is my goal for everything, is mid-September. I would love to have those nice warmer colors. So I'm going to plant some here, And then we'll just have some space, you know, that I'm just gonna leave and let these grow out, and I might even be able to harvest them. We'll see. Weed or not, I'm going to let those 2 stay. I pulled out, I believe, 4 of them, and one was branching out all over the place. I should have took a picture beforehand. But yeah, we're gonna get these in the ground, and then we're gonna call it a day on planting. Alrighty, and here's to hoping that we'll get some sunflowers in time before the first frost. I did have one that managed to make it when I was direct sowing, so thrilled about that. And then this one as well, that one managed to make it too. And then this is the amaranth, which I am guessing upon. If you happen to know, definitely let me know. I got a packet of seeds from a local teacher, and I think it's an amaranth on it, but if I knew, I would not have grown them, because look, this thing is massive, and I don't need it blocking the sun from my sunflowers. All right, now let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Hopefully these snapdragons will bloom in time for September. So again, today is August 6th, and I am hoping to get blooms around September 10th to 15th. That way it can carry me for a couple of weeks before my average last frost date, which is October 3rd. I really hope they can survive the heat wave that we have on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then it looks like we might have one more day where it'll reach around 90 degrees. And then hopefully it will start dipping down, except I do remember last September it being rather warm, maybe not into the 90s. Personally, I hope the warmer days are over. I will be happy with the low 80s. I am a 70-degree type of girl with a breeze, and that is so comfortable for me. Then I won't be sweating it out here while I'm doing all of my gardening. So thank you again for joining me. I will keep you updated come September and let you know if we were able to get anything to harvest from the snapdragons or the sunflowers. I am still learning this whole timing thing. Luckily for the year of 2026, all of my beds will be prepped. I will be actually making an addition to my garden beds and making some raised garden beds for my dahlias next year. I have now learned where they are right now. They are not getting the sunshine that they need, so they're a little bit stunted on the shorter side. I do finally have some blooms at the beginning of August, where last year I was able to get some come mid-July. Even though I did wake them up in mid-April, I'm going to try and shift things and make things a little bit earlier. Maybe not following the seed packet to a T, and just hoping for the best. So we have a lot still going on. Go ahead and click like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you can stay updated. And until next time, happy gardening.